Hey everybody, welcome back to the EHunter podcast. Seth and I are back again for another podcast for you guys today. Seth, you there with me?
I am here.
Awesome. We are, kind of as always, doing this remotely. Seth and I never actually get a chance to get together. One of these days, Seth, we need to start doing these things together.
Face to face, meet
Yeah.
in some cafe and hear the forks clinking and in between bites of eggs and stuff.
Hey, I'm all right with that as long as they're good eggs.
That's right.
We should be doing this like on top of a mountain hunting somewhere, though.
That's true.
Oh. Well, before we get into the podcast, though, guys, as always, we want to thank our sponsor, Vortex Optics. Man, spending a lot of time with Vortex Optics, looking through those things lately. Been using a lot of their products. I've been using the Razer UHD 10s, UHD 18s, spotting scopes, rifle scopes, just kind of everything lately. It's we're kind of in the heart of hunting season right now, and which I guess I probably better apologize to everybody. We're a little bit inconsistent right now with podcasts, but you kind of have to expect that during hunting season. We do pretty well outside of the seasons, but Seth and I have both been spending as much time as we possibly can on the mountains behind our Vortex Optics, and been having a good time. So we want to thank them and appreciate them. We'll have a lot more videos and stuff coming out with a lot of product reviews, how-tos, things like that, as it relates to the Vortex Optics lineup. A lot of really good stuff. Go to their website. It's vortexoptics.com. If you guys have any questions, again, Seth and I spend a lot of time using their products, and get into the nitty-gritty of them. We talk to Mark pretty frequently, and he gets way nitty-gritty with these products. Actually, I was talking to Ryan the other day at Vortex, and yeah, man, dude, I don't know if you guys listen to the Vortex Nation podcast, but do you listen to that podcast, Seth?
I do from time to time. I'm not as consistent as I need to be, but I do. I do listen to it from time to time.
Dude, Ryan is like a wealth of information. Like I have been watching, like I'm getting like, I'm not getting. I love guns, but I'm looking at a new gun I want to buy, and so I've been doing some research, and I swear everything I research pulls up Ryan, and I can't say his last name very well. Muckenhern, I think is how you say his last name. But that dude is a wealth of information. So, anyways, I digress. Anyways, go check them out. But if you have any questions, let us know. We can definitely help out. We appreciate them and everything that they do for us. They really support everything that we do here at EHunter. So, and also before we
Yep,
get going,
grab it.
oh, go ahead, Seth.
I was just gonna say, make sure you grab a pair of those UHDs because now that I've got a pair, I find myself pulling out the 18s in my tripod pretty much every time I find an animal.
Yeah,
I find
yeah.
one with the 10 powers, and immediately the 18s come out. So
That's the great thing about it. Is you can have the tens on your chest to like hurry and glance at something, but then have the 18s on the tripod to really just sit down and look through. And there's that lifelong question of what's better, binos or a spotting scope. And lately I've been using the 18s more than the spotting scope because it's just easier on the eyes.
it is. You can, like, the biggest thing is, especially midday, if you don't want to go back to camp or whatever, you can pick a mountainside apart, just sit down, and you've got way better eye relief. For me, at least, not having one eye closed all the time, trying to look through a spotting scope, having both eyes open, looking through those 18s, I don't nearly see the eye fatigue that I was getting before with the spotting scope.
When I was by myself scouting in Colorado, when I lived out there, I actually lived there. I'm here actually in Colorado right now on business, but I ended up buying me like a pirate's eye patch. And using that, I just put it over the one eye, and that way I could keep that eye open, and it was just black, and I could look into the scope because it killed me
Right.
to sit there and look through that for a really long time. Now, granted, if I want to look long distance and really tell what something is, or if I want to throw my phone scope on something, it's always my spotting scope. I mean, there's the glass is so amazing on it, and you can count nose hairs on a deer at a mile with it. So it's pretty amazing what we have. It's funny how different we hunt. I took a new guy out hunting with us this year on our Colorado elk hunt, and he just kind of wanted to learn how to do things differently. He's always been one of those guys that just beats the brush and beats the timber and tries to jump something up, and he's like, I want to see how you hunt, and I do. I spend a lot of time behind glass. I've kind of learned to hunt smarter, not harder, and man, he's like, you spend a lot of time just looking through your glass, don't you? I was like, I do. I really do. Yeah, behind binos, I spend, if you have a day that's 10 hours of sunlight, gosh, I could spend about 8 of those hours looking through glass. So, and looking
Right.
through a spotting scope for 8 hours gets very fatiguing.
Yes, it sure does.
Also, before we jump into kind of our topic of the day, is let's talk a little bit about what's going on at EHunter. Anything that you have going on, Seth, that you want to share?
Just like usual, we do our best to produce new articles and content every week. There's always something coming out, even with the sporadic nature of the hunting season. I do my best, and Taryn does his best to constantly create some kind of news article or something that's going on in the world of hunting. So we've always got new articles coming up. We've got some different series that go on. Like our Legends Never Die series is obviously very popular with the old bucks from Wyoming's Winter Range, but we've even got some Legends of the Past type stuff, which is kind of in the middle of everything. Some animals that have been harvested, some old stories and things like that. Um, so it's been good, but like I say, it's hectic when hunting season comes.
It is, and I got to give kudos to Seth. Seth's been producing most of those articles lately, and um, yeah, kudos to you because it has been tough. During hunting season, we get very busy. I mean, we both have full time jobs, but then, once you get off the full time job, then you're loading up and running to the mountain as quickly as you can. Whether for me, it's been whether hunting for myself or mainly mine has been helping others hunt lately. So, which is fun. It's fun to get out and do that. So, but Seth, appreciate you and putting all those articles out. And yeah, everybody check those out because a lot of good information. Even though I mean, right now is really when a lot of the hunting news is happening. So, and it's right there on the website.
Yep, lots of poaching stuff recently,
Yeah,
which I mean
man,
is understandable. I mean, it's not understandable.
understandable. What?
Right. No, I say it's not understandable, but I
Oh,
see why it's happening because people are out being stupid more
yep,
so than earlier in the year. So that's why you're seeing more poaching stuff is because there are people out being dumb instead of following the rules and during the middle of the summer it's less likely to happen because people aren't out,
right.
shooting in the dark and doing things they shouldn't be doing.
There's a great way to combat that, though, guys, and that is send us your hunting stories. Yeah, we have a lot of poaching stories that are hitting the website because that's what a lot of people are reporting. We would rather have hunting stories on there. We posted up one recently, hasn't been that long ago, about an awesome ram, bighorn sheep that was killed. The guy sent in the article and we published it. And guys, we're happy to do that. If you have a special experience, a special story, hunting experience that you had, send it in to us. Email us. Would love to be able to share that on the website and share your experiences with everybody else because that's a whole lot cooler than a poaching story.
Yes, yes, and like I say, like Karen said, we're more than happy to edit that up and get it. Even if you don't think you're the greatest article writer or whatever, we can help you out that way,
Hmm.
and get them published so people can see your successes. That's what hunting's about, man. Is that we work really hard to have that success.
Yep. And send us your pictures. We've been getting tagged and people sending us via DM on social media pictures of their harvests. Send those in to us. Love to share them. Again, share just the successes. That's what this is about. Is just having fun, creating this community of support one to another. Heaven knows that us as hunters need more support, as much support as we can possibly get in this world. And so, yeah, we would love to be that catalyst to help things, get out there so that people can see it. So share those with us. Hey, one thing on the hunting news side, I'm sure most everybody's aware of this, but Utah and the Western Hunting and Conservation Expo have announced that they will be having the expo this coming year. Did you hear about that, Seth?
I've actually not. It's you've got the news writer with his pants down, apparently.
Got him.
uh, no, but I'm glad they are.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited. That's one thing that I'd really look for. In February, what do we all do? I mean, we're all just sitting around waiting for something to happen. I guess we're applying for different hunts, and that's exciting. But
Waiting for draw odds or success. Yeah, success
yeah,
emails or unsuccessful emails more likely, but still.
but we're kind of just sitting on our hands, reminiscing from the prior year, looking forward to the upcoming year. And I love the expo because it's just like I don't know, it gets you in it. It gets you excited. It's fun. It's fun to just talk to everybody. Um, so they will be having the expo this year. I'm sure Seth and I will probably spend the majority of our time at the Vortex booth. So come and check, come visit with us there. That's kind of where we spend our time each year, anyways. But great booth, by the way. I don't know if you guys have been there, you know what I'm talking about. But that Vortex booth is absolutely amazing. Um, but yeah, super excited that that's going to be happening again this year. So we probably will have an article coming out on it so that everybody knows that that is happening. But wanted to get that out so everybody was aware of it and start planning for it. In fact, I think you can go on right now and start buying your entry passes and things like that. So anything else going on that we need to chat about, Seth, before we jump into our topic?
Um, I think we covered pretty well what's going on right now. I know there's been a dip in YouTube videos just because hunting season is going on. So
Hmm.
finding the time, like Terrence said, with a full time job and hunts on board to record some videos has been a little tight, but I'm sure we'll get back into that as hunting season winds down.
Yeah, I got one queued up. It's I've got mostly done, but I'm waiting for one final piece to it, which is my Henry rifle review. The old Henry's going with me not next week, but the week after on my Colorado deer hunt, and hopefully we can spice that video up just a little bit. Love that gun, by the way, though. Oh my gosh, that gun is. So I've had
It's
a
bringing home the meat, man. It's got to be
oh
bringing home the meat.
man, it can do it, dude. That thing is. Oh, the accuracy on that thing is amazing. Like, I haven't shot open sights forever, and I'm not putting a scope on
Right.
it. I'm leaving it traditional, open sights. Like, it's going to be a fun gun. It's actually because that's what I grew up with. We had an open sight 30-30 when I was a kid, and so I was like, oh, this is kind of nostalgic a little bit. And so I took
Right.
it out and just shot it and did a little bit of review. So, like, kind of some first impressions of it for the video, and man, that's a cool gun. A great shooting gun. Henry has like fine tuned this thing, so I'm excited.
That's awesome.
Cool. Well, what we want to talk about today is, Seth and I we're headed to Colorado. In fact, well, I've been to Colorado to hunt elk a couple of weeks ago. Headed to Colorado here in another couple of weeks to do a deer hunt. Seth's also headed to Colorado for another deer hunt. But we like to hunt in other states. Obviously, Utah's our home state. That's where we wanted to do most of our hunts because we're residents. But it's a lot of fun to get outside of your home state. And actually, gosh, if you guys have hunted Utah this year, it's been rough. I mean, at least for me and the units that I've been hunting, it's really rough to find a good, solid, mature buck.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of factors going into that, but I know the drought
Hmm.
across the state really created some issues there.
It really did. Yeah, and so when you're having those kind of years, you're kind of looking for, okay, what's that next state that's really gonna blow up? A few years ago it was Colorado, and then it was Nevada, and you just kind of have these states that you're going for, and I bought my Wyoming points, and I'm like, okay, Wyoming, maybe Wyoming's that next one that's gonna be just fantastic, and so it's fun having those excuse me, those opportunities in other states to hunt. And so we kind of wanted to talk about some of the things that we do to prepare to hunt in another state. A lot of it's going to be similar to what you do in your own state, but there are some things that I do personally to prepare to hunt in other states, and I'm sure Seth, you're kind of the same way. So we kind of want to talk through some of those things. And so Seth, I'm going to turn it over to you to kick us off. What are some of the things that you're doing to prepare to go to Colorado and hunt deer this year?
For this year, so I'm a big time planner. even my buddies are like, dude, you'll be planning a hunt 2 years ahead of time. So some of the things I do right from the beginning when I planned this hunt was obviously you got to find a unit. And let's be honest, it all comes down to what the person picking the place to hunt wants to do. Like you got to pick one. But once you get one picked, um, I go through and I just because it's easier for me, I just build a list of okay, what are the things I'm going to need on the mountain, not just hunting related, but lodging, truck, stuff to keep in your truck. I just build a list of all the things I can think of so that if I'm out there and I need something to make this hunt better, I've got it. And I know that's simple, and people are like, "Yeah, no, no, no crap," obviously, but it is a huge thing to put it down to paper because you'd hate to be, you've worried about so much other stuff. You get to Colorado, you hike back in a canyon, you shoot a buck, and you're 2 miles from the road, and for some reason in your haste, you don't have game bags at all, or whatever. You know what I mean? You threw your outdoor edge knife in your backpack, but you don't have the blades because you left them somewhere or whatever. So I know it's simple stuff, but a checklist really helps me make sure I've got what I need. And I don't want to go too crazy and off on the side road here, but to me, that's where I start on basically all my hunts. I did it a few years ago when we went to Idaho. I had the same basic concept. Okay, I need to have these things and make sure I'm headed in the right direction from the beginning. Um, but that's usually where I start when it gets down to getting things ready to go.
One thing I'd add to that is keep that list. I do the same thing,
Yes.
and I keep that list so that my next hunt I can look at like, okay, what on this list do I need to take, and what can I take off the list.
Yep. And that's what I did. So when I went to Idaho, I had it saved on the computer because I type it up. I type it up and print it out. But I saved the Idaho list, and then when Colorado came, I'm like, okay, what do I not need and what do I need to add? And I just revise it, and at the top, I change the title, and it's no longer the Idaho list; it's the Colorado list. So,
Yeah, I'm the same way. Keeping that list and yeah, because it's inevitable if you don't write it down like that. Like Seth's saying, write it down. If you don't, you're gonna forget something. Of course, one thing I
and
have
I
found, Seth, is on the trips that I do forget something, I usually have a pretty dang good trip. So there's
right.
a little devil's advocate there.
I've heard some horror stories though. I mean, I've seen guys leave with no ammunition. the You know what I mean? The ammo can got left sitting on the countertop or whatever, and hopefully you remember before you get too far down the road. Um, I've my uncle tells a story that it was actually after the hunt, and they were loading up and were loading all the stuff in the truck, and they left the rifle sitting on the tire of the truck and drove off.
Oh man.
Luckily they were in the same state and fairly close to where it happened. And they drove back there, and sure enough, the rifle was still laying there in the gravel.
Oh
So got lucky.
gosh, yeah.
But and not to say that having that list wouldn't have solved that issue because they were loading back up. But you don't want to forget something major that should have been easy to remember. But yeah, just even as you're loading the truck, you can just go through it. Okay, I've got this, I got this, I got this. Everything's in the truck. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, definitely. I got actually have a funny story about that. A couple of years ago when we were headed to Colorado to hunt. So this is when I lived in Colorado, but the other group of guys were coming from southern Utah. They made it. I think they were 4 or 5 hours into the trip, and two of them remembered that neither one of them had brought their tags with them.
no, no.
So so they had to turn
Oh
around. They called
my.
their wives and said, "Hey, we forgot our tags. Will you meet us halfway?" So they met. I think they ended up meeting back in like Richfield, Utah. Met their wives back
Oh.
there, got their tags, and then had to drive back all the rest of the way.
Oh,
So
I better make sure I've got that on the list.
that is number
'Cause
one on my
you've
list.
just jogged my memory. I better double check. Oh, that would be a bad time
Oh,
because
it
knowing my
was.
luck, I wouldn't remember until I was in rifle and I'm 6 hours from home.
Oh man, I think that's a great thing. I really do. I think preparing to hunt another state because when you're hunting your own state, usually you're pretty close to home. If you forget something, you can go home and get it. And another good something to remember: if you do forget something, most places there's going to be a Bass Pro, Sportsman's, something close by. But it sucks having to buy something that you already own. So make that list and check it twice, like Santa Claus. So.
Yes, yes, indeed.
One of the things that I really like to do before I go to another state is, well, study the regulation brochure. I think that's a kind of a no-brainer for most people. Is study that brochure and make sure you're familiar with it and know kind of what's on it. But one thing that I do is I actually download the brochure to my phone. So I'm an iPhone user. I don't know about those ancient people that use Android phones. I don't know why you
Me
do
and you
that
are gonna
anyway.
fight right
So.
now. We're gonna fight right now.
uh,
Android is a electronics company, and Apple is a lifestyle company. The sooner that you realize that, the better off you'll be.
well, I
That's
like
why
I'm
Apples are expensive and flashy and show how cool they are, and that's why Androids work because they're an electronic company and they know they are.
I care more about my lifestyle than my electronics anyway. So
I,
yeah,
I mean, I can tell.
Oh, but okay, back to my point here is so on an iPhone, I'm sure you can do this on an Android, and if you have questions, you can call Seth because he could probably walk you through it. But his number is 435. I'm just kidding. Um,
I mean, you can blow it up. It's
yeah.
fine. I might not answer, but it's okay.
But you can download the brochure to your files on your iPhone, which is super helpful. So I was on my hunt in Colorado, my elk hunt in Colorado a couple of weeks ago, where we don't have service. I mean, we can hike up onto this bluff where we get service. Even at that, it's pretty spotty. Probably not enough to download a PDF. And so prior to the hunt, I'll go in and I'll actually save the big game brochure or whatever I'm hunting, the brochure to my phone so that I'm sitting on top of the mountain. I have a question like, oh, how much orange do I really need to wear? Or for an elk, what's a legal bull? Does it have how big does that brow tine actually have to be? Whatever the case may be. Then I can just pull it up and look at it there. I know the regulations. That way, I don't have to guess. Because I would say, hunting in a different state, regulations are different, and you may be used to doing something one way. Like in Wyoming, you only have to wear an orange hat. That's all you have to wear. Colorado, you have to
Yeah.
have so many cubic
I-
inches of
yeah.
orange, and so
Idaho, they don't even make you. It's
yeah,
suggested.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
suggested, but you don't have to wear any if you don't want to.
Some states allow the pink, the fluorescent pink, but my point is if you're sitting at the top of a mountain in Colorado thinking, crap, do I have enough orange or don't I have enough orange, or do I know what kind of bull I can shoot? If you have to guess, that's really going to impact your decision when it comes time to pull that trigger. And so be
Oh,
prepared. Know the
e-
regulations as best you can, but you can't memorize the book. But download it to your phone and have it there readily available. Sorry, Seth, what were you going to say?
I was just gonna say even rifle regulations differ from state to state.
Yeah.
Not a question so much on elk, but on deer. I mean, some states let you shoot them with a 22 caliber. Some of them it's got to be a 24, 25. So that's also a question. I mean, if you love hunting with a 22 250 or a let's just say a 243, some states are weird. Some of them won't let you hunt with that gun. So it's it's nice to have that because you'd hate to, right before your hunt, you're like, well, I'm taking this, and then you didn't download the regs or read the regs, and you can't even hunt with the gun you were going to take.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, do that preparation. We have another podcast. You guys can check it out. Seth and I talked about preparing for those hunts, and we talked a lot about e-scouting and things like that. And during that time, that is a great time to be doing this reading and preparing. And like Seth said in his point was you decide which unit you're going to hunt, which is great. But once you decide that, and then really focus on what those regulations are, because man, it'd suck if you got out there and shot an animal of a lifetime and then got busted and didn't get to keep that animal, or got a fine, or lost your hunting
I mean,
privileges, or it can go downhill pretty quickly. So
well,
know what you're doing.
and certain states do point restrictions on elk and deer.
Hmm.
It'd suck to be hunting somewhere and you shoot a great big 2x2, just
Hmm.
weird mutated buck, but you get in trouble even though he's 5 or 6 years old. He's not a 4 or 3 point on one side, and
Exactly.
you're in trouble.
Exactly.
So
So I think that's huge, and I can't tell you how many times I'm laying in my cot, can't go to sleep, and so I'll pull up that brochure and start reading some things that I have questions about, and they change every year. That's what's for the most part it stays the same, but there are those changes every year, and so stay on top of it. Don't want to be busted. So
yeah,
that's one of the things I would
that's
highly recommend if you're hunting another state.
that's why the book's 100+ pages every year.
Hmm. Hey, and some people have a photographic memory, and they can look at that and have it memorized, and they're comfortable going on that hunt, not having it in the hills, or they think, oh, well, I'll have service and we'll be able to just pull it up and look at it if I have a question. Well, if you've hunted, you know that for the most part, you don't have service. There's a reason that Onyx has a offline map that you can download because you're not going to be in
Hey,
service most of the time.
you just segued into my next point.
Yeah, go for it.
um, Whether you have a GPS or a phone, most guys use their phone nowadays. Make sure your maps are downloaded and ready to go. Because I can tell you right now, even hunting my own state here in Utah, uh, you think you're going to hunt one place, you get there, the deer hunting sucks. You've only downloaded so many maps, and you want to go to another end of the unit, and you have no maps downloaded. If you don't have service, they work sometimes. It kind of works, but I would definitely download as many maps as you, especially where you're out of state and you don't know what the service is going to be like. Download an excessive amount of maps. You can always go back and delete them to cover that unit where you ever might end up being.
And that's applicable. I don't I use Onyx because that's what I use, but I already say Onyx because that's what I use, and Seth through the same way. But whether it's base map, whether it's whoever's map system you use, I think they all. Well, maybe tell me if I'm wrong, Seth. They all have a way to or a download off an offline mode, right?
So I've used both, and I shouldn't say both because there's even more now, but I've
Yeah.
used Base Map and Onyx. They both have downloadable maps. I don't know about the Go Hunt situation mapping. I've not used it.
I would
Um,
imagine
and
that
then
they would have it.
I would think it's probably pretty much needed. I don't
Yeah.
see how they could get away with not
We
having it.
we
So,
don't hunt in places that have service. So just flat out, we don't hunt those places. You know what LTE
and
stands for,
even
don't you?
hmm,
Less time and
go
effort
ahead.
hunting. That's what LTE stands for. Once that LTE clicks on your phone, oh, it's over. You're checking Facebook. Yep, you're screwed. No hunting's happening.
and 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 the thing is even in places that you get it, at least my phone, you can speak for your own. I don't know, but I've noticed if my phone drops from 5G to 4G to even like 2G or just whatever 1X or whatever, the the app or the mapping system will have issues.
That must be an
If
Android
you're
thing. I don't know. I'm
Oh,
kidding.
I don't
I'm
know if it's
kidding.
an Android thing. I think it's a satellite issue, uh, um, but I've noticed, and like I say, it's not an issue if your maps are downloaded. But if you're in a spot where you're not going to think you need it, and then all of a sudden you're out there and your service drops, and you're like, well, I'm on some road, I have no idea where it takes me out to, or I'm on a trail and I have no idea where it's going to drop me out at. I should have downloaded a
Yep.
map.
Yep.
So,
No, that's honestly one of the first things that I start doing when I get a tag, which is sad, but yeah, clear back in May or whenever I drew Colorado tags, I went in and made sure that I had those maps downloaded. I do not want to forget that. Granted, my deer hunt it's we kind of glamp. We do some glamping on that hunt. Um, we have Wi-Fi where we stay, so I could download it there, but
you're you're a little more glamorous than we are.
yeah,
We were told we don't have
hey, dude,
we
my
don't
elk
have
hunt,
any cell service, but
dude, my Colorado elk hunt though. That's a butt kicker, man.
Yeah.
I hiked what 6 miles uphill with a 50-pound pack on my back. Oh, it was horrendous, but and no service, no
Both
nothing. That was not glamping
uphill
at all.
both ways in the
Uphill both
snow.
ways, stayed in the snow. Oh, actually, the snow wasn't bad. It was the mud. Man, it was so
Yeah.
muddy. Like it was seriously. I wish I would have taken my gaiters. I didn't, but the mud was going up to the top of my boots. Like I was like, oh crap, this is not
Mm.
going to be good. This is not a good way to start out the hunt. But anyways, I digress. Download the maps. Yeah, I agree. That's a great recommendation, Seth.
Yeah.
My next one that I do, or I like to do, actually, I don't do it. It's not the next one that I do. It's one that I'll actually usually do the week before I go on a hunt. We kind of talked about this in our last podcast, or our podcast that we kind of talked about preparing for the hunts, which is contact a wildlife biologist. So things change from year to year, and obviously, I haven't spent a lot of time in the unit. I have spent zero time in the unit that I deer hunt since I hunted it last year, and so the week before the hunt, I'll call the wildlife biologist and just say, hey, can you tell me a little bit about what's going on in the unit? Has the rut kicked in, or the deer moved down? What are we looking for? The burn areas, whatever the case may be. Talk through those things. You know, Wildlife biologists, some of them are hunters, some of them aren't. So you kind of got to take what they say with a grain of salt. Um, but they give you a good idea of like where the deer are at that time, where they're seeing different things, whether they're seeing them high, low in the fields, up in the timber, or whatever the case may be. They kind of give you a general idea of where to start. Obviously, once you lay eyes on the unit, everything changes. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, but have that plan going into it, and then make that plan better when you get there and see it. But if you can talk to the wildlife biologist, then you can put a plan together once you are headed that way. So that's one thing that I always do. I don't know if you've had much experience calling wildlife biologists, Seth, as you've gone out of state.
I typically call them earlier in the year, but that's a good idea to call them later. I usually call them, you know, August, September because they're not as busy. So
Mm-hmm.
I know I'll get a hold of them. But that is a really good idea because it's going to give you a more up to date idea of what's going on.
That's a good point because they are busy this time of year, and they do get a lot of phone calls this year. So you may not get them the first time you call. I always just say, "Hey, this is Taryn with EHunter. I know Seth King," and they usually call me right back within seconds. So that's
Yeah,
usually the way
I
I go. You
believe
guys can use
I
that same tactic if you
tell
want.
tell them tell them that, but I'm telling you right now, as soon as they hear it, they're gonna be like, "Oh my, this guy, he calls me all the time, and I never call him back because he's annoying. I'm not gonna call this guy back either."
Oh, I got to give it up, and I know there's some wildlife biologists that listen to this podcast. There's several actually, and then I've got a good friend that's a wildlife biologist, and I gotta just say those guys, they're awesome. Like they love their job, and they're so cool about helping people out. Again, they're not. Some of them aren't hunters. Some of them haven't hunted their unit that they cover, but they will help out in any way they can. A lot of the info is just general info, but guys, it's better than walking into it blind. Some general info is better than walking into your unit like, okay, now I got to figure it out. And you spend the first 2 or 3 days of your hunt trying to figure things out, and then you really only get like 2 or 3 days to hunt. So,
Yep.
yeah, I like calling them the week before. That way, I get the most up to date info.
Yep. And it's just a quick sidebar there. It's not preparing for the actual hunt sometimes, but even hunts in advance. Like if you're trying to figure out a unit and you've got two, three, four in a general area that the same biologist might know about, call them and say, "Hey, I've got X amount of points. I'm looking at these two units. Let's compare and contrast." And all the times I've talked to them, they're more than happy to say, "Well, maybe go this way or that way." I know it's not for this specific hunting season or a hunt right up front, but it is a good thing to keep in your back pocket if you're trying to decide between some units.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I got one more. Seth, do you have any more that you want to share?
I have a quick one, and it's kind of entry level and basic, but it's almost a I don't even know if it's a prepare. When you get to where you're going, before you go into the field, find a place to stop and shoot your weapons
Yeah,
because if you're traveling, you never know.
yeah.
You never know, and you would hate yourself if you didn't check, and you have a trophy of a lifetime getaway because your gun was off.
Yeah. Oh, that's huge. That's I don't think that's a small one. I think that's a really good point. Uh,
Yeah,
it's well, you just never know. I mean, things get bumped around. I mean, hopefully you've been shooting your gun several weeks before.
right.
But yeah, if you're traveling long distance, I mean, some of these I'm traveling 12 hours
Yeah.
plus to go hunting, and so you never know.
Especially if you fly, like especially if you
Oh,
fly too, because
yeah.
them you never know how your stuff's going to be treated.
Hmm.
But even driving, stuff shifts. Maybe a cooler flips over, and yeah, your gun's cased, but you never know. One little bump might ruin a hunt. So,
Exactly. And not just guns though, bows too. I
yep.
in fact, usually when I get to camp with my bow, that's one of the first things I do once the camp is set up. I throw out the target, start shooting 20, 30, 40 yards just to make sure everything is where it needs to be. Because, yeah, like Seth said, you will be pissed at yourself if you go to make that
Yeah.
shot and can't make it. It's off, or, oh, that makes you sick
You
just to
don't
even think
want to
about
be
it.
the guy that tells the story of how you missed a 180 class buck because
Don't be
you didn't
that
check
guy.
your stuff when you got there. Because, like I say, we all have stories where we missed when the weapon was on. How are you going to tell a guy, yeah, I had a buck at 250, 300 yards and I shot 3 feet above his back because the scope was messed up?
Yeah, that's the thing is
So,
there's so much that's not controllable in hunting. We can't control where the deer are going to be at. We can't control what the wind's going to do or the weather's going to do. So that's hunting. There's just so many things that aren't controllable. Making sure your gun's sighted in and still sighted in, that's controllable. So control the things that you can control.
yep.
My last thing is just, enjoy it, guys. You know, I, I've been a runner my whole life. I love to run, which I know there's a lot of guys like, holy cow, you're a freaking idiot, Taryn. But um, it's funny because I've almost centered my vacation trips around running. And so, like when I go to, if I've got a race in wherever, we'll like vacation around it. Kind of the same point, with hunting is make this an enjoyable experience. Whatever that experience is. If going out and hiking 14 miles a day, sleeping in a tent in a foot of snow and whatnot, if that's what's fun to you, which that's what my elk hunt is, I love that. Do that. Just make it whatever it is to be fun for you and enjoyable. We don't get many opportunities to hunt in our own states, and we definitely don't get enough opportunities to hunt in other states. So take advantage of it, make it fun, make it enjoyable, and yeah, just enjoy, guys. So that's not a
Yeah,
prepare or anything like that, but just to
no.
enjoy.
That's, yeah, that's a point. Taryn makes a good point. So if you're a goofball history nerd like me or Taryn when it
Yeah.
comes to the old west type of thing, a lot of the times we're hunting in areas where old west history happened very nearby. If you're into that stuff, even if it's on the way home, take a detour for an hour and check some stuff out. I mean, it's tons of stuff happened in the western side of the United States, and especially if you're coming west to hunt, and you can experience some different things even on the way home or on the way coming in. It can make it even that much more enjoyable.
Hmm.
So,
Perfect example. I went to South Dakota to hunt turkeys. A few of my buddies, met up in Denver and drove up to the Black Hills to hunt turkeys. Well, we're in the Black Hills of South Dakota. You got to go to Mount Rushmore while you're there. It was just cool. It's cool to do those kind of
yep.
things. Yeah, just make it enjoyable. Again, whatever enjoyable is to you. If it's glamping at an Airbnb cabin where you have Wi-Fi and you can watch football games and whatever the case may be, have fun
Sounds
with
like
it.
you're speaking from experience.
I don't know. No, I've never done that before. All mine are really tough hunts. Um,
Eh,
or
you liar.
or or if it's a butt kicker and you come home and eat 10,000 calories a day to try to make up for the things that you lost. It's everybody has their mindset of what fun is, but man, hunting in a different state can be so much fun. It gives you an opportunity to see different countries, see different places, and just get out in the hills and see the beauty of God's green earth. So, well, guys,
People can back. Oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say people can bag on the glamping, but when you're deer hunting in November and it's snowing and it's like 12 degrees,
Yeah.
it's really nice to come home to a place, home, quote unquote, to a place that's got heat, uh,
Mhm.
warm beds. You're not sleeping on the hard, cold ground. You can cook a hot meal and don't have to eat. Not that I don't like Peak and Mountain House, but you don't have to eat one of those. You can actually cook some dinner and glamping's okay from time to time.
Yep, it is. It's fun. I like both. I like to do anything and everything. As long as I'm hunting, I'm pretty dang happy. But yeah, I agree. When it was -10 last year, it was pretty nice to go back to a nice, warm, comfortable bed and a warm meal. Yeah, it was fantastic. So,
Yeah.
well, guys, hopefully this stuff helps you as you get ready to go to another state to hunt. And I guess actually more than anything, I hope it motivates you. Look for that next great state. There's so many opportunities out there. Colorado, we did a podcast on different states from different opportunities. Colorado has so many opportunities to hunt for people that are out of state. When I was on my elk hunt a couple weeks ago, I was talking to people from Florida and Massachusetts and Kansas and just all over the map. Um, it's just there's just so much opportunity. Other Western states have a lot of opportunity, and it's not just big game. I mean, you can do turkey, you can do upland game, there's just so much opportunity. So hopefully this motivates you guys, makes you want to get out and do these different hunts and experience some things that you haven't in the past. Before we go, guys, make sure and check out ehunter.com. Like Seth said, new articles going up all the time. Please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media. We're really trying to be anywhere and everywhere that you guys need us to be, trying to be the ultimate resource for you guys. We appreciate the support that you guys are giving us. Please give us a little grace during the hunting season with our podcast and our YouTube videos, but promise as soon as hunting season's over, you guys won't regret it. We should have some good content coming up for you. So, Seth, anything to add before we close?
I think you covered it pretty well on that outro. So.
Cool. All right, guys. Appreciate you. We'll see you on the next one.
See ya.